Happy Tuesday, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you join me. Thank you so much for being here. As you know, we're live, and I'm excited to welcome you to today's Level Up conversation.
Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends. I'm Winnie Sun, your host, Forbes contributor, CNBC council member, and award-winning financial pro, here to keep you on top of relevant, trending business news, and also a little something special. But most importantly, you're part of today's discussion. So thank you so much for all of you joining us today. I know today is very special, and that's because we have here one of my dearest friends and a guest today. And I know he's popular because I expect today to light up because I know you're very excited about him. I'm not going to say who he is yet because you probably already know, but he's the founder of Voice Your Vibe. But before we jump to him, and if you don't know him, you're in for a treat. Here's how the market closed today. We got to start the bad news, right? So we can move into the positive news. Now, the Dow closed, unfortunately, down 808 points. NASDAQ closed down to 514 big ones. The S&P also down 120 points. Investors continue to be fearing an economic shutdown here. And don't forget, yesterday, Russia issued a very stern warning threatening nuclear war. So unfortunately, we saw definitely the tech-heavy NASDAQ really drop dramatically today. And I wish I could tell you it got better, but the last hour of the market just seemed to get worse. In fact, many of the mega cap stocks like Apple, Amazon, Google, Facebook all got hit hard. And of course, Tesla down heavy over 11% today with the recent news that, in fact, Elon Musk has decided, and not only that, Twitter's board has approved Elon's $44 billion shopping spree, and he decided to buy Twitter. That's right. If you haven't heard that, that's in fact what's happening. And so Twitter going to be Elon Musk's in a few days. But, we'll see how that goes. We can only keep optimistic and hope everything works out. But let's just say today's a very special day. I've been looking forward to this all weekend. I'm so excited to welcome my dear friend. I consider him family, the one and only Brian Schulman. I think many of you know him. He's the founder, CEO, total powerhouse of Voice Your Vibe. And hello, Brian. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Winnie. It's so good to be with you today.
Well, thank you so much for being here, my friend. I know this is a little different because I know you're used to hosting the show and usually asking the questions and getting that energy in. So thank you so much for lending your voice to our show today. I'm really grateful. I've been wanting to have you on the show for some time. I haven't seen you in a bit, but doesn't mean I don't think about you all the time. And today's segment, I feel like, Brian, something we've talked about a lot, but it's talking about some of, our biggest struggles being, in fact, the biggest gifts and how we deal with setbacks and how we bounce back. Brian, I feel like this is something you know so well. But before we get there, I know that in Brian's style, we got to say hello to our friends. We see Lisa joining us from LinkedIn Live. Of course, I'm sure you're a big fan of Brian. Marella, it's great to see you. And the one and only Tim Son. I think we all know Tim. I think he's like your brother now, right?
Tim is my former producer and very, very, very dear friend.
Very fun. And
He is my
Vicky,
brother.
he is your brother. Vicky, Facebook Live. It's great to see you, Vicky. Thank you so much for being here. And wow, so many people. And Tim sends his love, of course. So we'll try, Tim. We'll try to give you double the impact. Brian, I want to start with this if we can. You have a really interesting backstory, and I know there was some struggles, right, and some setbacks. But for those who aren't familiar with your story, I mean, we know that you're a super powerhouse all over social media. But can you share with us a little bit about how it all started for you?
Yeah, I can. And I'm going to do this in an interesting way. I'm actually going to do it through my daughter's voice. although I'm going to share it with you. And I apologize for my nasal passages being a little cloudy here. But the very first book in a 13-book series that I'm so honored to be a part of, called The 13 Steps to Riches, I actually shared this. And I think it's much more impactful for me sharing it this way than just kind of riffing. So bear with me as I do this, because I've yet to get through it without crying. But I'm gonna do my best. So I'm sitting in my home office, and plastered on my walls are paintings that my two kids, my monkeys as I call them, have made over the years. And my daughter, who at the time was a senior in high school, she's now a junior in college at Berkeley. She walks into the room and sat down in the chair next to me, and she says, "Here, Dad." And she wanted me to read these pieces of paper that she had in front of her, and it said speech contest essay at the top. And I didn't know what this was. So it was entitled Live to Inspire. So here we go. The story about to be told is about an extraordinary man, now 42 years young, who's accepted all the obstacles life had to throw at him. Now, I know you may be thinking that everyone has different obstacles they just overcome throughout their lifetime. So how is he different from you and I? What makes this particular man different from you and I is the tactics he used when faced with these obstacles. What makes him different from you and I is that he took these obstacles and used them to help make a difference and inspire others to never let life get in the way of their greatness and achievements. What makes any one of us different from everyone else is not the obstacles that life throws at us, but what we do when faced with these obstacles. Will you choose to accept defeat, or will you choose to persevere? On May 13th, 1975, a child was born at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles, California. And this child was born 3 months prematurely, weighing 1.5 pounds. During the 1980s, he was diagnosed with a neurological disorder called Tourette syndrome, which is a type of tic disorder characterized by involuntary repetitive movements and vocalization. He went to various doctors who performed countless medical examinations to try and find a cure. Every doctor said the same thing. He's fine. He'll grow out of it. And one day in 5th grade, he stood up in front of his entire class and shared with them what Tourette syndrome was and what living with Tourette syndrome was like. A huge weight was lifted off his shoulders as he once shared his story with his classmates, and it generated many supporters among friends, parents, and teachers. Finally, a specialist at UCLA told him that he would never be able to get rid of this disorder alone, and suggested he take a special drug called clonidine to help with his tics. Unfortunately, with this drug came horrible side effects. He made a conscious decision to not take the pills after a few years and try and master his condition through focus and determination. After a while, the tics started to diminish, and for the most part, they went away. Nobody knows what life has in store for them. All we can do is live until we're forced to face an obstacle in which we must make a choice to overcome or accept defeat. With the experiences this boy had to face came a life lesson. With determination, perseverance, and support from others, anything can happen. Now 42 years young, this man chooses to use his story to make a difference in others' lives by inspiring people in times of uncertainty. He implements the Rotary's motto, service before self, by finding the light in those who cannot find it in themselves and supporting them through their tough obstacles. He helps lift people's spirits and hopes in times of hopelessness and despair. He helps people turn their ideas and dreams into realities. He helps build people from the ground up in hopes that they too will one day share their stories with others. He makes a difference in the world each and every day, which inspires others to make a difference as well. Who, may you ask, is this man? Well, he is my father. Out of all the lives he's made the biggest difference in, I believe he's made the biggest difference in mine. He inspires me never to give up on what I believe in, to always do what makes me happy, but most importantly, to always live every day as if it were the last, because there is never a guarantee of tomorrow. As Gandhi once said, be the change you wish to see in the world. Making a difference in the lives of others is my dad's change. What will be yours? Now, to say that I was completely taken aback by this is an understatement.
Mhm.
You know, before that moment, I had no idea that she felt that way about me. It
Mhm.
brought me to tears just like a minute ago.
Mhm.
And she sat in my lap. We hugged for a while. We cried for a while. And my heart smiled being with pride of being her father.
You know, it's so amazing about that story, Brian. And your daughter is so eloquent, but it's so amazing. I think if you listen to what she wrote, I hear you the whole way through. Like I hear your voice and her voice. Um, for you not to have known she thought this, I'm actually surprised because you are so amazing to so many of us. And those who know you and follow you, like that energy is infectious. um so tell me, Brian, how many years ago was this?
So she wrote that her senior year in high school. She's a junior in college. We all know I don't math very well, so you can you can figure that out. But it was just really a handful of years ago, and I don't know. I mean, I think anyone out there with kids, you know, your kids are teenagers. The last thing you think is that your kids are thinking that about you as parents. I mean,
Sure.
most kids as teenagers, they know everything. They're out there on, you know, they want to be on their own. They're ready to leave the nest and do their thing. And I think that's why I was so taken aback by it, because you know, I mean, the greatest, you're a parent. I don't think as a parent that we could ever receive anything greater than something like that from one of your children.
Right.
So it's yeah,
Yeah, it's incredible.
she's
And
incredible.
she's incredible. You're incredible. Whole family's incredible. I think what we want to talk about too is, Brian, is just, you know, not only your daughter, your son's incredible too, and all the hard work that you've done. And she just gave us a small glimpse of how she feels about you. But you've touched so many people, even beyond your family. You know, your accomplishments are absolutely incredible. But from the outside looking in, Brian, I think a lot of people think, wow, he's so happy and he's so uplifting and he's touched so many people, right? But we know that behind all that has been so much hard work for you, right? And there's been, let's be honest, any successful person will also admit that through the years, they've certainly had a lot of hiccups along the way, right? They've had a lot of challenges. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if you could talk about the lessons that you've learned from your times of challenge and really how you've grown through them.
Yeah, sure. So, and you're so right. I mean, anyone that's ever been successful in anything will tell you that 99% of that journey was the struggle. 1% of it was that quote unquote success that everyone looks at and says that's the success. The struggle is the success is the struggle. And, you know, growing is in the struggle, in the discomfort of being in the unknown and navigating it with faith, with grit. desire to succeed, the belief that every failure gifts you with a lesson learned, and therein lies the success. You never underestimate the power of others seeing in you what you don't see in yourself. Just as there is tremendous power in believing yourself, what you are creating, the community surrounding you, supporting you, lifting you, and creating a safe space and a brave space to be your true self. I always say it's the heart of it all that matters, and that message is universal. It's about reaching people so that they feel seen and heard, and have a safe place to come together. If you stick to those things, you can't help but be, let's call it, ethically considerate. I'm mindful of all the situations, circumstances, etc., of our LinkedIn fam, of every platform we're ever on, anyone I interact with, and take great pride in making everyone feel included and supported and safe and welcome.
You've created an incredible brand of making other people feel safe and welcome, but you've also created incredible community as well. Sometimes as entrepreneurs, we wonder when we're building our businesses, do we start with the business first, or do we start with the community first, right? Or do we start with the marketing/community first? What do you say to that, Brian? What are your thoughts on that?
Communities, and Winnie, you and I are a mirror image in this respect. Community is everything. It's everything. And by the way, I've been online since it was green screen and chat rooms. Okay. So from the very beginning, and I can tell you that every single one of these digital platforms, whether you're in the quote unquote real world or call it the metaverse, right? It's all about the people. It's all about the people. It's all about the hearts of the people. Everything it happens around that. Your vibe attracts your tribe, right? You have to show up and be you. And by being you, you attract your tribe. And, I have made me cry again. I have found a tribe that I never knew I had. I found a voice I never knew I had. And, coming from where I have, being the 1.5 pound preemie, growing up, getting bullied a lot, neurological disorder, being weird and different, I stuck out. I didn't want to stick out. And I think most people will feel that way. They don't want to stick out. They don't want to be, we want to blend in, because we look at our quirks and our weirdness and our differences and all those things in humanly in a negative way. And yet you realize that when you just be you and show up and be you, you don't realize how you truly affect people. I'm going to use a word that's overused, but being genuine and authentic, and being your true self, letting your true colors out, and realizing that it's that connection. It's the connection we all want, especially in the last couple of years, being a global pandemic and war and so many other things. Our hearts want to connect with other people. And that's the most important part, because the building of your brand and all that happens on its own. Yeah, you see voice your vibe and radiate positive vibes and all this stuff. Like, this is recent. This has not been here for years and years and years. This is recent, if you won the last couple of years. And I think if you realize that if you just show up and be you, that is the brand. And more importantly, realize that it's never about you. It's all about shining your light bright on others. And when you do that, yes, it boomerangs back to you for the good, but that's not why you do it. Give to give. Just come from your heart and be a good human being and be kind, and realize that the most incredible gift you can take away from that is the way someone else makes you feel because of that, and it's the feel part that I think we forget about. We're so focused up here and going, I have to show up this way and be prim and proper and say things. And, no, it just come from your heart, be human, because that's the connection part. And that's the part you don't forget. Our minds can forget knowledge, but you'll never forget how someone makes you feel.
Absolutely. Brian, I want to touch upon something you had mentioned early on too. 1.5 pound baby, right? Preemie, and going through, like you said, a very serious neurological issue, right? And having kids who, let's be honest, when you're young, they can be cruel because they don't understand, and you're an easy target, right? Anything different is funny, and they want to pick on because when they're younger, they're also insecure. I know because I was so brutally, bullied as a kid. And even to this day, I'll never forget their names, right? I'll never forget the people that made fun of me day in and day out and how I felt. So, Brian, how did you take that? Because I do feel like those challenges that you experienced early on in life, I think for some of us, we decide to become angrier, crueler. Others, we take that and we say, you know what? We don't want to be that person. We know how it felt. And so we've decided to live every day kinder. And I feel like that's absolutely defines you. So I was hoping you might be able to talk about that because I think, these challenges is what I think has become sort of like your yes factor, like almost superpower in a way. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's such a true statement. And I can so relate with you. It was honestly even tongue in cheek with friends. And just so you understand, in my height of my Tourette's growing up, I was somersaulting from room to room. I was jumping up and down. I had these intense neck twitches and wrist flicking and multiple facial expressions and auditory sounds, and they all blurred together. I was straight up weird. I was just stood out like a sore thumb, and it was really hard. It was really hard. I'm really grateful. I had some pretty incredible people around me growing up. My mom was, I mean, I'm the man I am today because of her. And it I can tell you that as hard as it all was, um you push through, right? I mean, I think, and you said it right, when kids wear everything on their sleeves. Like, it's just, it all comes out. There's no filters. And as kids, our hearts are huge, beating, right? And
Mhm.
so we consume things in such a more glorious way than maybe as adults, where we put up some walls. We're better, or we've experienced more in knowing how to receive those things. Whereas we're just raw receiving all of that data, if you will, that's just pumping our hearts. And it's just like, it's taking a whack at it, right? It's every time it takes a whack at it, but we just keep getting up and keep going. And so, I mean, as you said, coming into the world, I mean, I was literally fighting for every breath just to make it in the world. In the 70s, they weren't prepared for stuff like this. I was in huge walled incubators, wires attached to me. I was no bigger than your hand, and trying to pull wires out, apparently. But so I was struggling and fighting right out of the gates. And then the neurological disorder, and struggling and fighting. And I mean, honestly, I've been struggling and fighting my whole life, life, business, whatever it is. And I think you start to create this armor of grit, of tenacity, of, I don't know any different, so I'm just going to brush myself off and keep going. And I may be crying through that process, but I'm going to just keep going. And I think, when you go through those things, and when you endure what you've endured, um, it, you look at yourself in a very different way. Like I said, I didn't want to stand out. I didn't want to be different. I just wanted to blend in. And honestly, that lasted for a really long time. And it wasn't until later in my years that I found a voice I never knew I had, that I looked at things differently and said, I want to give out the opposite of the negative I had received, and give out good and positivity and light and love and encouragement and strength. And I want to make other people feel better, period, but feel better about themselves, because I know what that's like, and whatever gift you have, because it is a gift. It took me a long time to realize that, right? Whatever gift you have that you look at as a negative, it is a gift, because that gift empowers you to help others. there's multiple instances in my journey where I was able to help others, specifically when it comes to Tourette's. And I was in high school. I passed a classmate, and out of the corner of my eye, kids everywhere, right? Out of the corner of my eye, I see him do 3 ticks different right after the other. I knew in an instant he had Tourette's because I knew what I had at that point. And I remember going home to my mom and I said, I know one of my classmates has Tourette's. And long story short, we wound up being able to let him know because he had no idea. He, like me, thought he was weird and different and awkward and just, picked on, all those things. And we were able to help him and his parents get to UCLA where I was diagnosed and, and get help. I mean, that never would have happened if I didn't have an acute sense of awareness of me and what I'd been through, right? I mean, if that hadn't happened, if the universe hadn't brought us together in that moment, he'd probably still, to this day, be feeling and going through the same thing he'd be going through as he did in high school. Like that's a gift, right? And so I think it's, it kind of incorporates something that I was thinking about, and I know you're going to probably get to the question, but it's like, well, what advice would you give your younger self? And I got to tell you, I had a instance when you and I were together. It was at VidCon in LA, and they had 2 rooms set up, and it was very dark in there. And this was set up by Viacom, and they had one side which was a big backdrop, cameras, all that, and a big poster board, right? And it's what do you stand for? And you have to sign some waivers and all that. And I'm like, so what's the deal here? And they said, well, you can take a picture with the board. You can go next door and you can actually, get on camera and tell your story. And I was with our dear friend Q, and Chantel Sumis had just come out and told us about it. And I'm terrified. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going on camera, but I'll take a picture, and I put differently abled and voiceless. I stand for those that are differently abled and voiceless because that was me. Mm-hmm. Q does his thing too. We go next door, and Dids was with us as well. And, and they're like, okay, who's next? And there's like, director, whatever, other people. And I'm terrified. And I said to Q, I'm like, okay, you go ahead. I'll take some pictures, video, whatever. You got this. And he apparently was nervous too, as he said otherwise. And they ask you a bunch of different questions, and all I'm doing is trying to look at it and go, okay, are they asking the same questions or are they all different? They were all different. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm terrified. I'm going to have to just do this. And I said to Q when he came back, I need you to stay here because I'm terrified to do this, but I feel like I need to do this. And they asked that question. What advice would you have given your younger self? And I swear to God, I was like 12 years old again in that moment. Mm-hmm. Feeling all that. And I said on camera, and I shared some of the backstory. I said that you matter. And that you have a voice. And that your voice matters. And I shared some other things as well, but I was talking to myself like my smaller self. I'm already small enough. My smaller self, like right there. It was so crazy how it all happened. If I hadn't caught, Chantel in passing, and she said, you've got to go do this and share your story. And, it's still relatively early days in our LinkedIn video journey and everything. And I had just shared my story for the first time with the world on LinkedIn video in front of 500 million people. And, was still really raw and everything for me. But wow, because to me, I was talking to myself, but I was also talking to everyone else that felt that way about themselves.
Yeah. And it was so powerful. It's so powerful, Brian, because, it's so interesting because during that moment, during the conference, I mean, nobody would have known. You're so well known at LinkedIn. I mean, when I first met you, I didn't know one human being could handle so much camera equipment at one time. So
Well, it's
I
so
was in
funny.
shock.
Like, I was
I
so
think
new
we
to
were
all of it,
juggling
you know?
3 or 4 cameras and audio and microphone and
Mm,
everything. And I'm like,
yeah.
wow, this guy's like, like that one movie back, The Music Man. You're like the
Yeah.
camera version of the Music Man.
Well, that was again, all that stuff was so new to me, you know? I had like all these batteries in my pocket and all these things, and I'm just like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but yeah, it's great, you know? But
It was
yeah, I mean,
impressive.
look again. When everything's new, you're scared and you're struggling, and I think it's just it's just start. It's show up. It's shine your light bright. You are like you are the you are God. You are God when it comes. I'm trying to think of like how do you like you're the one. You're the one. Like you were the one that you were so incredible at this. Like you make people feel seen and heard and valued and loved and it's just it's amazing. And so shining your light bright on others and again, heart for you were all heart first and human first. And then it's not about you and it's about showing up for others. And again, just that, everyone has a voice and everyone matters and that you will positively affect others and impact another human being's life by being you and by showing up and no matter what you've endured, just that to find that voice inside of you and know that it's there no matter what your story is. And because again, I didn't think I had a story and I certainly didn't think it was remarkable or important, but I realized that by sharing it that I did have a voice and that I do have a story and that my story has and does and continues to profoundly impact others. And that sharing your story, it's not about you, it's not about your story. And I had to tell myself that, by the way, because that was really uncomfortable for me. I hate talking about myself. So realizing that it wasn't about me and flipping the script and that, it's about the impact of your story that it has on others. And, you never know, this is so important. You never know what someone's going through and that sharing your story can impact someone when they need it most. And that 99% of us don't think we have stories that it's worth sharing, but we all do. And Voice Your Vibe it's about bringing those stories to light where other people benefit from that. And it's just amazing, Winnie. It really is, because the people that I have interacted with, I've come in contact with. I was at a mall walking by, and someone in their car with their kids said, "Hey," and I'm like, "What's happening?" And was
Mhm.
with a friend, and actually my co-host Nancy Deborah, and she's like, I turn around, let me see your sweatshirt again. And we were wearing these sweatshirts, and she said, what is this? What's this Voice Your Vibe thing about? And I shared my story, about growing up and Miracle Baby and Tourette's and bullied and all that. She told us about her other child that wasn't there, and that she's been bullied so much that she's been out of school and she can't go back to school because she's terrified and she's like, this is incredible what you're doing and this movement and the positive vibes and all that. She's like, how do I get one of those? And we led her to that QR code right here. And it takes you to the swag site. These are our shows. It takes you to the swag site and you can get your stuff. And I just, it was, I didn't, I'm like, what's happening right now? Um, it, your voice is your heart makes an impact, and it's so much more impactful than you will ever know, ever know. Even when you think you do know, you truly never know. So yeah,
You
I had to
truly
share that.
never know. Well, Brian, you've inspired so many people, and I see all the feedback we're getting from today's audience. And I know I'm not the only one that feels this way. There's been a lot of tears and a lot of emotion here, and it's been beautiful. It's been so honest. But you inspire a lot of people. But I'm curious, Brian, you keep on going every day. I feel like you're one of the hardest working people easily on business, on social media marketing. What inspires you to keep going? And like, what do you do on your off? Like, what do you do when you just don't feel like getting up and logging on and getting on video? How do you pull through?
Oh, it's such a good question. Um, you know, my tribe and knowing that I'm making a positive impact in the life of another human being. We're all humans with a heartbeat, and we're all living through this human experience, and the focus is on how we're so much more similar than different. And the Positive Vibe Tribe, I see all of you guys are incredible, is made up of people around the world from all cultures and religions and socioeconomic backgrounds with a wide range of varying experiences. And my content, whatever it may be, is inspired by my tribe, all of which is meant to lift and unburden people's hearts. And the purpose is to boost their spirits and ease their minds and create connection and encourage collaboration and build a family. I always say heart first, human first. You said something else that I think is really important, which is, burnout is real, Winnie.
Mm-hmm.
Burnout is real. The struggle is real. It is not something creators talk about at all. We experience it. We don't talk about it. My goal has never been to promote myself, but to shine the light on others, right? To inspire others to show up and be themselves and get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that's where the growth happens. That's where the magic happens, which has never ceased to be the guiding principle, right? But in giving, I receive more than I give. In giving, I receive more than I give. And because burnout is real and it's something creators don't talk about enough, taking self-care breaks is so important. When you do this, like you're militant about it. You're so good at it. I am not as good at it as I need to be. And I'm thankful that I have the people in my life to call me on that, because it's so important. It's something we encourage, support, and practice. Everyone here in terms of the Positive Vibe Tribe, there's a lot of hosts that are here right now that are watching the show as well. And they know that. They've come on the shows and they've shared that. They've broken down in the moment. We've literally just gone off script, if you will, and talked about that and the experience and how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
The best example is not talking about it, but being the example. I am, and you are too, I am not big on talk. I am big on leading by example. And so, yeah, so it's that, and it's reminding myself, and again, I'm really grateful I have people in my life that I do, because I have experienced it. I am experiencing it. If I'm, as Nancy would say, radiating real, I am experiencing it. I don't quote unquote post the way that I used to and all the things that I used to do. And we're so much harder, by the way, on ourselves than anyone else. And by the way, nobody else cares the way we do about all the things that we feel we should be doing and we're not. You're showing up. Like, that's the most important part, is just that you're showing up and you're supporting others. But yeah, self-care is so important, especially in the last couple of years we've all been growing through. We're not living up here anymore. We're living with our chest cracked open and our hearts beating wide. And by the way, we'll continue to be living that way for a long time. And businesses, if you're smart, you will pay attention to that and realize that your marketing is not here, it's here. And it always should have been here. But, the world, the universe gave you a little nugget and said, hey, this is where you need to focus. Focus on the heart, because it's the heart of it all that matters. And you do that, and you're going to reach people in a way that you never could have possibly imagined. And more importantly, your tribe that surrounds you, every brand has a tribe. Your tribe is going to be stronger than oak, and it will never be breakable, because the way you impact people in these times that we're in today and the last couple of years, we will never be forgotten, ever.
Yeah,
That
you'll never
feeling.
forget it. I mean, totally. You know what? I want to definitely share some comments that are coming in, because it's incredible. So Tim is saying, we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't show up for others. Lisa's saying, amen. Vicky is saying, action is key, and she's going to definitely take a look at your book. And she's saying that burnout is definitely something she feels as well. Lisa, of course, is saying that you inspired her to do her first video on LinkedIn, and so many wonderful comments. And I think that's something that I want to talk to you. And if we could segue a little bit, Brian, on that topic in particular. Let's be honest for a minute, Ryan. We've been honest this whole time, but let's talk about something that you probably aren't particularly wanting to talk about, but I'm going to talk about anyway. It's just what an incredible LinkedIn superstar you are. Okay. I know you're usually talking about other people, but we're going to put the spotlight on you today, because Brian, today's your show. Okay. At LinkedIn, you've been on LinkedIn for almost 2 decades. That's a long time. Some people are looking at you and don't even think you're 2 decades old. But not only that, you every day, Brian, every day. We're talking Saturdays and Sundays too. We're talking evenings. We're talking like 2 2 decades of being on LinkedIn. You've grown and just a total powerhouse of some of the nicest, kindest, most supportive community members. They're just the most wonderful people that you would want to hang out with. What impact do you think that this has had for you personally and for business?
Okay. So, when I hear 5-time best-selling author, international keynote speaker, godfather and pioneer of LinkedIn video, and one of the world's premier live streaming and video marketing experts, and that my insights and these two global award-winning shows, right? These two global award-winning shows that have been featured in NASDAQ and Forbes and Thrive Global, Yahoo Finance, Roku TV, the CW, because of you, Winnie. I mean, multiple #1 best-selling books syndicated on a smart TV network. All these LinkedIn accolades of being top voice and a 3-time top 50 most impactful people of LinkedIn out of almost 1 billion people, and LinkedIn Global Creator of the Year. Like, the list goes on. And I'm sitting here going, wow, I want to meet that person. Like, who is that? I don't realize it's me. I'm dumbfounded by all of that. I will tell you, the most, beyond all the accolades and achievements, I am most proud of my 2 kids and the connection and relationships that I made along the way. That being said, all of those things, right, taking me around the world to do keynotes and all that, and again, just business, and it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible. Showing up has created these opportunities, right? And realizing that through the struggle, that's where the opportunities are created. Impact it's all about impact, Winnie. Again, I think we truly don't and I have so many people that have said this to me over the years. You truly don't know what kind of an impact you have made. When I look at Shout Out Saturday and What's Good Wednesday, and they've aired for more than 400 live consecutive episodes, and our guests come on from the audience, which is intentional, and everyone's invited to join live. You've been on the show.
So happy.
Yeah, right. We need that, right? And it's about having a global impact, and the countless stories of people coming on and sharing their stories and leaving feeling supported and more hopeful. And people that have watched and participated have described how their lives have been transformed, and often after their very first experience, and their praise focuses on the show's emotional impact. And the shows are widely viewed and touch the hearts of millions around the world. And this isn't only true for those who watch the shows live, but for those who support through the comments, just like right now, the Positive Vibe Tribe. And as a community, it goes beyond the show. It's people connecting on and off the platforms and attending one another's events and appearances, and that are always there for one another. I don't talk about sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. It was so good. But I mean, one thing that I think we're watching this, and I haven't seen you for 20 years, but just in the last few years that I've gotten to know you, it's been incredible. It's like every month it gets more energetic, more positive, and every show it just sort of builds and builds and builds. And what's really fascinating about what you've done, Brian, is that you're not selling anything. You don't even have honestly, I'm only I don't even know exactly what business that you're doing on the back end, but the incredible amount of support and love and that very devoted community is every brand's dream. Every business's dream is to have people who will show up, who will love you that much. And you get your community coming every single week. And we're not talking about just people off the street. We're talking like true powerhouses that come and literally just hang out with you to have fun with you, Brian. That's incredible.
Thank you so much. And, look, I think if we have not realized in the last couple of years how short life is, we've been hit with everything. And like I said, Maya Angelou says it best: people may forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. That's the important part. All the business comes from that. Yeah, it's how do you fill a need? I mean, Voice Your Vibe is a company working with founders, C-suite execs, Fortune execs who want to find their voice, show up, don't know how. Voice Your Vibe teaches you how to find your voice, and yes, how to voice your vibe, how to attract a tribe, and how to tell a story people fall in love with through live and pre-recorded video. Yes, there's all sorts of incredible things happening and working with businesses and such and helping them find their voice and teaching leaders how to be more human, because they're all here and people look at them as untouchable, and that's not good business. Your true culture, the cultures that you're a part of, and I've been so privileged to be a part of so many actually in my 20 plus years of building and growing startups. Like, those are things you never forget. Those are unicorns because they're just an anomaly. But when you are not here and you're here together, charging together, making dreams happen, incredible things happen. I always say incredible things happen. We come together, it's amazing. And, my starting all this, it was all about impact. It was all about making people laugh, smile. There's an underlying tone here, by the way, Winnie, and all the shows are guests coming on from the comments. We have a lot of first-time guests that come on the show. Most people are absolutely terrified, just like you and I were, getting in front of the camera, terrified. And I don't talk about it a lot because, again, action first. The shows are all about fun. Full force funness, as we say. We do social distancing. We have a good time. We talk about those who make a positive impact in our lives. And Shout Out Saturday from the last week. And What's Good Wednesday is all about sharing the good, the silver lining. No matter how bad things are in your life, there's always something good. You're alive. You're breathing. You have your family next to you. Whatever it may be. And having fun. And that Pavlov's theory law, if you will, the bell ringing is, hey, that wasn't, and the beauty about it, Winnie, is that all the encouragement, love, and support, just like this happening right now in the comments across multiple platforms, is that, right? Your tribe encourages you. You're like, hey, that's positive. That's reinforcing. That's good. I love the feel of those vibes. I can do this because I got people that are going to lift me up if I fall down.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk away going, yeah, hey, that was fun. Hey, I can do that. I can go on Winnie's show. I can start my own show, right? and while we don't talk about it, that is the underlying purpose, so that people can feel more comfortable getting uncomfortable, getting on camera, because you've got to be seen and heard.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not doing business.
Right.
We are living in a digital world. You've got to be seen and heard. And so it's not about being comfortable. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable, because, I still have those moments.
Even you, Brian, even you. That's beautiful. And I hope this is inspiring. I know that when I love talking to you, because I always learn something new, but also I just feel like, I know a lot of people feel this way, just feel like I get to know you even better every time we do this. And every time I'm able to pop in this show, it's always such a gift. Brian, I think it's great. And I mean, we could go on for hours, but I think it's time to throw you under the bus a little bit, my friend.
Okay, here we go.
I'm totally kidding. It's time to share speed round with you, Brian.
All right.
Speed round.
Just absolutely incredible. Brian is so incredible. And look, Brian, so what we're going to do is have a little bit of fun here. We're going to give you about 2 minutes to answer 2 questions. And so I know I didn't share these with you ahead of time, because I always like to see what the answer is going to be, but hopefully you like them. So the first question, Brian, I have for you is this. We talked about just a tremendous reach you have on LinkedIn, all of the social media platforms as well. You build such an incredible brand. You help businesses of all sizes get their leaders to understand the power of how you feel building out a strong brand, that positive vibe that you're talking about. If you could start your social media on restart, no platforms, Brian, we're starting fresh, no profile even, where would you start today? Because I'd like to learn what you would do differently in your social media journey.
Gosh, that's a really good question. You know what? I wouldn't do it any differently. Like, I've thought about this before, because it's one of those questions you think, how would you do it differently? I wouldn't. I mean, actually, it took me 5.5 months to muster up the bravery and courage to get on video on LinkedIn. Like, I was part of the alpha when it launched, and but I was terrified to get on camera for all the reasons we talked about today, especially Tourette's. But honestly, like if I was going to change something, that would be one thing. Just go. Don't wait 5 months. Go. You just start. What are you waiting for? But I honestly, Winnie, I truly wouldn't change anything that's happened in my journey, because I wouldn't be where I am today if one microsecond was different. That moment, the suck moment, as my friend Sina used to say, embrace the suck, one of our early creators in the journey. Like, you got to embrace the suck. That was a hashtag campaign. And I embrace the suck of all of it. It's terrible. All the things. And I'm like, oh, this sucks. I hate this. Get me out of this. And I realized that those are the most important moments. Those are the moments that matter more than the goal line and the trophy and the everything. Like all those accolades, like the suck moments are the most important, because that's when you grow and learn, and that's when the magic happens. And we don't think about that. I didn't think about when I go through it. I'm more cognizant of it now. I still forget it, and I still remind myself, stop. Like this sucks right now. It's supposed to suck, because your moments to come, when you look back and go, gosh, you grew so much. You should be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself.
Yeah.
And know there's going to be more of those, but those are the best moments. So I wouldn't change any of those moments. If anything, it would be just to start sooner. But Winnie, you and I were both honored to be named by the chairman of Forbes when he was on LinkedIn. He's still on LinkedIn, I think. He left, came back, and early days years ago, and he came on, got bombarded by everyone. I want to be in the 30 under 30, 20 under 20, 40 under 40, or whatever. And LinkedIn didn't think it was him; they thought it was a bot. And we made a collective video to give him some tips on LinkedIn video and whatnot. And he left, and he came back, and he said the reason he came back was because of creators and he named a handful of people on the platform. And I was one of those people. And I didn't understand it, because when I show up on video, it's always been about fun and just the fun. And I'm a huge collaborator. I was one of the first collaborators on LinkedIn to bring people together and continuously do so, which I guess is why Forbes called me the king of community on LinkedIn. And just because I love it, coming together with people. And it was never planned. It was all just, hey, you ready? Here we go. And whatever happens is real and raw and heart and fun. And that was it. And I'm like, I just show up and have fun with friends and make videos. Like, I'm not talking about business or any of that. And yet all these amazing things happen. And I think that's the thing, is people always think you got to show up and talk about business. And that was not my jam. And so if anything, I hope that I'm the example. I'm the example of the whole right end, if you will, of the skew going, yeah, you don't have to be crazy like me, but just be you and have fun. I love to bring the inner child out of people. Because if you think about that, we grow up and we lose that. We lose that kid in us. We put on our suits and we carry our briefcases and our bags and we go to the office and we have to be adults. We're adulting. But aren't companies built off of the kid inside of us that comes up with this incredible dream that it's going to change the world? Like, why should we lose that inner child in us? So, like, I've brought the inner child. I'm proud of this. We have brought, I think about our shows. We, me, Nancy, Deborah, Tim, everyone that's been involved, because it's all of us together as a tribe, have brought that inner child out of each one of us.
Yep.
And that's created this incredible gift to come back out and dream big and do things we never thought we could do, and have the support behind us to be able to do it, and know that, hey, there's no dream too big. Just start, go after that. It's amazing. It's amazing. We will look back years from now and go, wow, look what we did together.
Look how much we've done. It's incredible. And I agree with you. It was absolutely incredible. And I remember being part of the beginning with you. It's really fun. Let's talk about, I have one more question though. And this is what I really want to ask. And this is, I definitely believe that everybody has their own yes factor, or some people call it their superpower. What would you, Brian, say that yours is?
What's my superpower? My superpower, my gift, is my heart. My heart. I mean,
I love it.
I think if you see people with your heart, you look at people in a way that they never will see themselves as. It's, because we're so judgmental of ourselves. Eventually they will. And honestly, being a mentor to so many over the years, that's my favorite part, seeing things in others they don't see in themselves. And And when they finally see that moment, man, they look like they can fly. And that's such a cool feeling.
It's
Like your
such a
heart just
cool thing.
bursts, you know? Winnie, you know it,
Mhm.
because I know you've looked at me that way, and I've looked at you that way, and we've looked at others that way, and it's just the coolest thing. It's the
Yes.
coolest thing. And
Your
then to
heart
see
is pretty
them,
spectacular, and I got to share this story before we close up here. So, my dad got in a terrible accident a few years back, and I remember Brian driving to my office, which, by the way, is nowhere close to my office. He drove to my office, popped in. I didn't know he was coming, and he stopped and he said, "Just wanted to give you a hug and make sure, my friend, that you were okay." That, my friend, is Brian Schulman's yes factor. I'm going to name it. I'm going to call it. That's what it is. That's his magic. That's the stuff you don't see and you don't hear about, but that's what makes him special. So huge thank you, my friend Brian, for spending the time and being so generous and being so raw and honest with. And I got to say, I got to thank your daughter too. I mean, I feel like she was part of this whole thing with us as well. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Vicky, Tim, Daniel, Marilla, everybody, Russ. I'm going to leave some of you out, but thank you, everybody, for showing up, for watching, supporting our program today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so grateful that you could join us today, because that way we could celebrate Brian together. But please do me a favor and share the show all over social media and with someone that you care about, sharing the heart. We're celebrating Brian today. As a reminder, you can find full episodes of Level Up on NASDAQ, CW, the KBCW, I apologize, CW San Francisco, Amazon Fire, Roku, and many other places coming this year. And we're excited to share that Yes Factor, our brand new podcast, is now available on most podcast platforms. So please tune in. Thanks to LinkedIn Presents. Be well, and I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. Take care now.